So today we're going to talk about smart capital. What does smart capital really mean? Everybody wants to have it. Everybody wants to be it, maybe on that side. But we really want to take really a look at a bit deeper. How does smart capital have to be today? Data-driven, global, strategic? How does it fuel bold ideas for all of your entrepreneurs out there? Like, how do you receive it and be able to grow with it? And for that purpose, TNGSS brought together a great panel of industry leaders from venture, operations, ecosystem building to really discuss these topics. We have built funds, scaled companies, and helped founders really succeed from Europe to Southeast Asia to Tamil Nadu. And we already had the introductions, and due to time I will probably skip that to not go into detail. But let's start with that. One of the first things I tell founders who are looking to raise funding is to tell them, get smart money, not dumb money. And I want to ask all of my panelists here, how do you define smart money? And especially, how did the definition change in the last 10 years? Maybe, Mr. Subramanian, would you like to start?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. 10 years back, if I would have sat here, if somebody is asking, how do I raise money for my entrepreneurship, the 3 F's has been given. Friends, fools, and family. I think that was the time it was a smart money. The same person, after 10 years, he wanted to raise money. He looks at things very differently, looking at who is going to help him to get the exit through IPO. So possibly. So the smart money, it depends on the stage at which the company is actually needing the fund. If the fund comes to them, then only they will survive. They are not bothered about who is going to give that money. If the person is not going to disturb them that point of time, I think it becomes a smart money for that person. But if it is a growth stage, if he wanted a money, he has to actually look at defining what is that gap which he is seeing in himself for the next stage growth. And they have to do research on which are the companies which will be supporting them for building that into their ecosystem. Then looking at growth, they have experiences to build the organization, give them the direction to give them the growth which they are required to grow for. So the smart money by term itself, it varies depending on when they would like to raise the money. This is my take. In 10 years, it has changed. Earlier, the startups come and ask for money. Today, investment banker comes and asks for money. So now the choice for them is to look at who is the investment banker who can really look at their entrepreneurship or whatever they are doing at present and guide them how to go about in raising the money, at what stage and what quantum, from whom. That is very, very important because these entrepreneurs come through the investment bankers. I should not say that 90% of them just forward the information which has been given, or they build an information where they don't understand the business.
Very well points, and I want to follow up maybe Jesper in your direction. As we just explored, smart capital can mean different things at different stages, but how often is capital actually smart? There was a 2021 report that showed that 92% of VCs describe themselves as value adding, while at the same time 61% of the founders said we saw it more as below average. So is it either that investors are not doing enough or founders have too high expectations?
I would at least say as a VC, it's very hard for us to raise money if we say we are value destroying. So if nothing else for that reason, we have to aspire to be value adding. But I think it means something different, right? There's the value adding in terms of returning more money back to our investors, right? I don't think that's what's the exciting topic today. I think the value add is toward the founders. And I think we have the aspiration, some will call the illusion, and I think the statistic that you are referring to perhaps suggests illusion, that we can add value beyond just the capital. Now, I think the capital is the hygiene factor, and I think as a founder, if you know what you're doing and you need the money, I don't think there's such a thing as dumb money. I think there's the money, and if that's what is required, then that's absolutely fantastic. I think what we in Xfinity has tried to do is to say what are the moments that matter where we can add in a value beyond the money. And an example of that would be like someone building an electromotor, right? Fantastic R&D. They have built and gotten the patents. They now need to scale it. Do we have someone in our network that we know would be the right manufacturing partner for them? Can we help make the introduction? Can we help bring them together and therefore accelerate both the production and the go-to-market? I think for us, that's what we would like to think, that we can add beyond the capital.
So, hello. Basically, Jesper already said that capital needs to bring basically the right value. It has to be effective in a sense. You said that effective capital isn't money with a phone contact. It's capital paired with operators. Really lived the reality of it, kind of being in the trances. So, can you maybe expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for being here. I know it's been a long journey, but I think this topic is quite important, that when you try to raise money, I mean, I think you always think about the partners you're going to find as an investor, as a money maker. But I think the more important thing is that how this person will help you to operate, what talent, what skills that person will bring into the company, and how you can leverage that talents and that expertise, that knowledge, to grow the business more quickly. And I think, you know, that's what we try to do at Boostable, my company. I mean, we've been doing this in Europe and in India, especially in Tamil Nadu. The idea is to bring more experience skill set to the business while we bring money to the investors or to the entrepreneurs. So the idea is really to find the right balance between what you can, as an entrepreneur, get from an investors and what you can get from a partner. And I think the partner is maybe more important than just being an investor.
Arvind, when we talk about the right partners or the right balance here, what was talked before, how is it more on a local level? As you have been building with local entrepreneurs, and I'm just wondering, does it differ the traditional way of venture funding in the big metro ecosystems compared to the more local ones when we talk about smart capital also?
So, see, when we talk about smart capital and bold ideas, early stage, bold ideas don't need certainty, they need conviction. It's really about betting on such risky ideas and risky founders who are able to mitigate some of that risk with the talent and idea and the team that they're able to build. So I think the reason why we are betting big on Tamil Nadu, other than our social passion towards it, is because I think Tamil Nadu is in a very good inflection point, because we built the engineering talent, we built the manufacturing talent, we have a huge SaaS phase here, we are the SaaS capital of India. So the next wave is here, especially with AI. So every Redbus, every Freshworks, every Zoho, every Kissflow was a crazy idea that a founder somehow convinced a venture capitalist to fund them. And I think we need to bet on these early founders very well and start looking for them, not just in Chennai, but in tier 2, tier 3 cities, where these guys are scrappy, sitting down with just 2 and 3 people and building the future. So from a VC standpoint, smart capital is also about investing in smart entrepreneurs. And that marriage, it's a very good marriage, you know. The marriage that happens personally, we sort of say, if you have a good VC marriage, I think you have a better life in some sense. So the VC partner that you build a relationship with really determines whether you can grow as an entrepreneur at an early stage, because smart capital, the very definition, what we think is, if the right team with the right idea is able to convince a customer, capital should simply be gasoline. It should fuel growth. It shouldn't fuel burn. Because sometimes entrepreneurs get confused in the fact of, oh, my scaling is stopping simply because I don't have money. No, it's because they don't have product market fit. So when you have product market fit, VC money will naturally get attracted to you instead of you going and searching to that. So in early stage, I think we're very deeply searching and investing in these companies.
Let me follow up on this one, as you want to find the smart founders or the bold founders to have that marriage as business can be. How do you identify these, especially those that can grow, scale from a grassroots level, because sometimes you don't know yet. How do you identify these bold founders, these ideas?
So it is harder, it is slower, but the good thing is, see, traditional VCs, simply because of their structure and their tech, their size and the way they have formally built their organization, they simply can't deploy and find these companies. And with respect to Mudal VC, we have taken a very bold approach saying we will invest in companies that build from Tamil Nadu. So we have taken a geographical focus rather than a sector focus. So that naturally one attracts companies from Tamil Nadu to come and say, hey, here is a guy who's taking all the risk and building and supporting risk capital in the state of Tamil Nadu for Tamil Nadu startups who are building for the global world, for the global competition. When you naturally fit that ecosystem, I think it's much easier to communicate and connect with these founders. So we've been doing this for 4 years now, and we've done like 800, we've touched 800 founders, 800 to 1,000 founders. We mentor about 60 founders every year, and we invest in at least 4 or 5 of them. And right now we have about 20 investments, and all of them are early stage, and 2-3 of them have already raised money. Some of them are in their 3rd round of funding. And then we believe that, okay, if Y Combinator can do that for Silicon Valley, why can't Mudal VC do it for Tamil Nadu? And I think we are there, and it's time that VCs start focusing on a regional level rather than a national or a global level, because regional is the next global.
Yeah, very hands-on approach, getting connected and understanding really what are these founders doing. If we take a look at the more, let's say, traditional VC perspective, you need to find the 10% outliers, right, to really get the returns in. And of course, you have limited capacity. How do you identify the right bold ideas you want to work with, engage further? As you are likely, flooded, not sure how many emails you get every week. Maybe just a curious question, but yeah, how do you shift this through and decide which bold ideas to follow on?
Happy to take this one. So I think the first thing is, what do we as a VC actually believe in, and building our thesis on that, right? Because there's going to be many bold ideas everywhere that we simply don't understand. Right, so we are trying to narrow it down in our thesis. What are the macro themes? Like, it could be energy transition, it could be a multipolar world, it could be supply chains, whatever. Within those, what are the areas that we think that there will be a big opportunity? And what is it we think that we will be able to recognize in the founders when we hear it? So I think that's one part on what kind of idea would we be backing, and we will have a blueprint for what are the areas we would be looking for. But I think the perhaps even more important part for us is, as was also alluded to with the smart founder, is like, does this founder understand this idea significantly better than us? Right? And I think, honestly, the best investments we have done, they didn't really fit exactly what we wanted, right? But the founder was so convinced that we got convinced together with the founder. And I think that's kind of, you need to know where to look, and then you need to be able to listen and understand that this founder actually has an insight that you don't have yet yourself. And then that's how we sort of find those outliers. And again, not all of the outliers we think we found worked out the way we wanted, right? But I think that's also part of the VC world, that you have to find and believe in something, and then we back it and we do our utmost to make that idea successful together with the founder. And then, we'll win some, we'll lose some.
Similar for you? As a long-term supporter of many startups, mentor, is your approach similar, different?
So being an angel investor, I initially adapted what Mudal VC talks about, that keep mentoring the early stage companies, track them, and then make an investment through either Indian Angel Network. I'm also part of Native Angels. So I picked up startups, those kind of startups, and it was agnostic about whether it is a technology or it is an agriculture. Then I realized that when we come into a VC world, anyway, it has been the thesis-driven investment, what we do. In our firm, we have picked up India as a story, specifically India stack as the back end, and any development happens through the happening of the India stack, And that is what we picked up as our thesis, and we have gone deeper into each of that areas. And we look at supply chain, we look at fintech, we look at clean green, and we look at the health tech, which is not intrusive. And probably it is B2B is what our position is. So we have a lesser headache to find out a bold investor, because it is more well-defined space in terms of what is expected to solve when the economy grows, and where this economy will lead us to. What are the things has to be solved to the economy to be grown, and that is how we will be able to pick it up. As I go with both of these people, this bold entrepreneur in our B2B case has found a very niche area where the solution has to be done, where we would not have had an eye on those areas, but that entrepreneur had an eye on that. In spite of we keep saying that, no, you have to look differently, he had a conviction of going through what he thought it is right for him to go, and we have seen successes in those entrepreneurs. Wherever the entrepreneurs listen to us, then we have a fear whether he does not have the conviction in what he is doing. At the time of when there is an issue on growth, he started migrating to the next or pivoting to the next thing at that stage of growth level.
You know, in the food industry, in the agriculture industry, you have a lot of constraints like, you know, the scarcity of the water scarcity, the climate changes. All that is creating a lot of challenges in the food and ag tech. And in fact, you need some people that are willing to take the risk of working with those constraints, because behind you have a market of 2 or 3 billion people that are living the same condition, with the same conditions. And so we believe that this is, you know, if you can master, you know, those constraints, you can build a big business and become a cross-border business. And we would like to help entrepreneurs that have a mindset to grow globally and grow internationally. And we feel that goes through the ability for them to take the risk, understand the constraints. The last point I want to say is that we look also entrepreneurs that are willing to be profitable quickly and before getting to the next round. So we are looking at the ability for the entrepreneur to become EBITDA positive in less than 2 years. Why? Is because, you know, that's the best guarantee that you could be successful if you have the willingness to become profitable quickly. So start small, start local, listen to the investors, and become global with the help of cross-border, work cross-border with the help of the investors. That's what we look at.
Yeah, let's talk about how I get that ear of the investor and how I get in touch here. I mean, we already saw there's a lot of founders here or people who might consider building something, and maybe something fun in the sense, how do these founders get the attention with their bold ideas? So from all of you, what were the most outrageous pitches, craziest, interesting things you have heard that you listened to or that you followed up with? No, we didn't just say like, no, not interesting, but maybe you want to start like the most crazy, outrageous pitch thing that you said, okay, let's continue, so you have something.
I mean, there was an outrageous pitch, but we invested in that. So like, we've invested in this company called Bad Boy. The entrepreneur's from Madurai, and he's building India's first 3-wheeler EV sports vehicle. So trikes, which is very famous in the Europe, you know, the 3-wheeler ones that police vehicles use, but he's building a reverse trike, which basically looks like a Batmobile on wheels. And we're launching that for personal transportation for the Gen Z youth or for you know, sports enthusiasts. And it looks absolutely amazing. If you guys want to check it out, badboy.ev. So we're doing our first test drives this month, and it looked absolutely crazy for us. But we just believed in this founder and said, the vision was like, if we could build something like this from Tamil Nadu and show it to the global stage. Now that's a bold bet. Whether it fails, yeah, every idea may fail, but if it succeeds, you're part of a success story that will be there for the ages. So that's a crazy story, and we're very excited that we're going to be doing test drives very soon, maybe in the next 2 months. That was one idea that I will never forget, and I'm hoping that it will come live soon.
hoping that I have an investment there, hoping that that also
Yes,
grows.
for sure, sir. I'll be
That
coming.
I just blind investment on the crazy idea which has been told. Otherwise, I would have listened to many crazy ideas, but to validate whether this idea is right or will it scale, it takes time for us. Because it depends on the kind of situation I have come from. See, I am already with my baggage in my mind, what I can invest, what I cannot invest. So somebody comes and says that, sir, I will manufacture hydrogen at the petrol station. And then I immediately do the hydrogen into the vehicles. I said, the whole world is looking forward for that. What is that idea which you have? So he demonstrates it in terms of, not physically, in terms of how it can be done, but it is very, very difficult to appreciate. We found one idea which has been funded by Tamil Nadu government, which is still there in the space tech area, which initially we didn't think that it is going to be viable, like refueling of satellite, right? And the satellites can have many more years to be in the space. So we keep hearing crazy ideas, but at this stage, most of the crazy ideas is cut. When it comes to a VC company, there are younger generations who are there who actually screens the idea. They don't bring it to us. So that is getting little more, we have to go and find them. And where they are sitting, and we have to go and find them, whether it is possible to work on that. But I'm not able to recollect immediately on the many crazy ideas, but it was there. I'll tell you one thing which I lost. Swiggy was today, in 15 years back, somebody came to my office, said that I would like to start a company, and if it is interesting, can you fund? I asked what it is. He says, sir, if you are coming from your home to your office and you forgot a key to be placed at, or your purse, or maybe something which is not valuable, a file, we are ready to go and then get the file and give it to you. That time I thought is it an idea? Is it an idea at all? What is a big deal? How can somebody can start a company just for delivery from one place to another? But that time it looked crazy, but today it is not that crazy. That is the biggest idea of the world now, at least in India. Swiggy and Zomato is looking at completely disturbing all the ecosystems.
Yeah.
Not only delivery, that whole supply chain has been disturbed.
Very true.
So,
I mean, if you think about it, so sorry, sir. Airbnb, when they went to IC, Paul Graham looked at it and said, who's renting their house couch? Why would someone rent their couch for some stranger to come and sleep? And it's not like India where people are welcoming. Americans are at least little personal about their spaces. But it's a $100 billion service company if you really think about it, right? So these bold ideas do exist. We have to find them. They have to find us. It's sort of like it's an ongoing process. And yeah.
one more thing I have to add. I had been going through the deep tech companies, and one institution is there in Bangalore, Tata Institute of Science, which is actually having last 25 years of experience. One scientist came and said, sir, we have actually solved, or maybe have a different view on the mathematics and the physics, and we have solved a simulation problem which can be 30 times faster than any simulation in this world. So I was so appreciating what the conviction they have, but they are all kind of simulated it and kept it 3 or 4 scientists, where India has actually given award to them. But I kept on talking to them, saying that, okay, there was one problem which they presented, which is a commercial problem inside in Europe. So I said, why not we solve this problem? They said, no, we wanted to go and then be with Airbus or Boeing. These crazy people does not want to solve a smaller problem. They want to solve a bigger problem so that the whole globe knows about it.
See, Jesper, you also want to share some interesting pitches you heard?
Yeah, so I won't judge what is a crazy idea, a bold idea at this point, but I think the original question was also a bit around how do you break through and how do you get the attention? I think 2 small things that I've seen work extremely well. One is when people speak to our founders and they already explain the idea to a founder in a similar space, right? I mean, of course, not a competitor, But when the founder reaches out that we've already supported and say, this idea is great, you should back it, right? Then you definitely have our attention. And I think the second thing is we only back business-to-business organizations. And some founders have actually gone and pitched the idea to a corporate and said, you know, if we can do this and this in 3 years, would you be excited? Right? And then they get the corporate to come to us, right, on behalf of the founder. So I think, I'm not saying it works for everybody, but these are two small tips that at least have worked extremely well with our fund.
Noah, you also have some interesting pitches you took a bite in?
Well, we invested in vertical farming technology. So I don't know if you know what vertical farming technology means, but it's...
Maybe give like a just quick
yeah,
one
no,
for
quickly,
those who
it's
don't know.
about growing plants or salads, you know, vertically, indoor, without light or with less water, with 10% of water compared to what you normally use in regular farming. And when we invested into this technology, I mean, we thought about, first of all, we looked at this market as an opportunity for us to become farmers. We look at that as become like really strong farmers. And in fact, we realized that it was really a tech business that we really need to invest into. And we developed the technology, and we really worked with the owner of the business to really become like a tech expert, to really have a technology that is unique and quite very creative. And in fact, that technology today is not yet very successful. The reason behind it is because the market is complex. I mean, there's a lot of challenges, and the first challenge is to be able to compete with traditional agriculture and make sure that you can be better in pricing and better in quality. So you can gain in quality with vertical farming, but it's true that pricing today it's an issue. You are not competing in price right now. You are
Michael, you will have more, what do you call, you may have some experiences which you
may
can
have
share.
also.
I will, I think, focus on the panelists just for the time's sake, but I just remembered one, like a very crazy pitch, not to me, but which a Singapore-based investor told me. He got a box, like just randomly, like this box came into the mail. I was like, what is this? So he opened the box, and there was a shoe inside. I was like, why is there a shoe? He looks under it, and there's a note. He said, well, I got my foot into your door. Let's have a meeting. So, interesting approach. He actually had the meeting with them. I might have to check if he actually invested or not, but at least the conversation started. Maybe let's go from there, talking about conversation or, I mean, sales in a sense. When we talk about global expansion, scaling, up to 40% of VC-backed startups in India, at least say we're already selling to customers globally, trying to go out. And when we talk about that aspect, it's a lot about selling yourself, marketing, and so it's like a very clear topic, not just, okay, what does it mean to find clients abroad? Jesper, your career has put you into many places, Netherlands, UK, Denmark, Hong Kong, India, and so you have a lot of experience in being, let's say, global from day one, really selling yourself. What do you give startups as advice or support to say, hey, I will be smart capital to help you really scale globally? Does it really mean that you can get the customer in Europe, in the US, somewhere else, and go from where?
So if you already invested, one of the things that I really enjoy is road trips together. So go and actually join the founders and then set up like a couple of meetings in a different country where I happen to know people. I think that's, I mean, because of my personal networks, I think that has worked really well. But I think more broadly, like a generic advice is how do you seek for help, right? So if you go and people feel already that you are pushing a product, I think it can be very hard to get that local advice. But if you can come to a country and set up with a few organizations and say what would need to be true, what is the right partner to enter this market with, then I think the conversation changes a lot because everybody wants to help you with a partner. They don't necessarily want to underwrite the first check. So I think that's something that we're also trying to sort of stimulate, where with introductions, you find a local partner and you open it up that way. Ideally, that can also happen together with a strategic investor, right? Like there's nothing like a partner that also wants to take a minority share. But I think those are some of the things we are looking at least.
Aravind and Subramaniam, when startups want to kind of start to scale and go further, do you usually recommend them go first to find your clients globally, find them rather locally, which path to take. I mean, especially as startups from Tamil Nadu, the question comes, maybe I have to go for the national clients. Like I remember one founder I'm working with here from the state, very specifically went for European, American, international clients, and then also kind of looked at Indian clients. What advice would you give them? Where to focus on initially from a client perspective?
Since we are working on the areas of India stack, like fintech, supply chain and all that, most of this, what has been built for India, we also make sure that it is at least helping the global south. Because some of these spaces has a similar behavior in the countries which is south, global south, what we call it as like Far East and Middle East, they may have the similar behavior. So we would like them to be initially approaching that, but we may not have an eye on US market. Very few companies which has built the product which can reach any part of the globe, because this is a kind of managed, controlled by each of the country on these are the spaces which is like that. Like for example, fintech, it is very, very suitable for Indian ecosystem. After that, UPI and that stack came into the place. So we would like to play here, but since the UPI itself, even the digital infrastructure has now been exported to other countries, we would like them to be following there. So similarly, there are something on supply chain, which is solve supply chain, some problems in India, that is possible to solve in most part of the world other than the US. So we find and we tell the entrepreneurs, build it for India very strongly, because India itself is quite a large market, and don't ignore the other markets when you are eyeing it. For example, they build a rail such a way that it can be used for outside India also. At least have a target on Far East countries. So that is how we look at how the solution to be built, and we also, when we evaluate it, we also evaluate keeping in mind all these parameters.
I think MVS sir is right, very right. I think that's the playbook that people follow. It also depends on the companies that you're building, like fairly technology companies build from India, but they already have a global playbook. Like some of the SaaS companies that I know, their first customer was someone from Australia. You know, they simply did SEO. After like 6 months, their first customer came to the website, saw the product, bought it online, just put the credit card and they bought. So based on the companies that exist and the very nature of it, I think it's going to fairly change. And right now, if someone's building an AI, I think these boundaries and barriers are like literally no more anymore. We don't know. Lovable is from Sweden. You know, Replit, I don't even know, but I use it every day. So I think it's really depending on what kind of problem you're solving, and if that is a global problem which has a global TAM, India is a good place to start, but I would eye on a global solution from day one. And that build the talent and the team, that the motivation of the team also kind of gets aligned from day one. So that's my thought.
I think, as I heard, we will kind of so much time left. So maybe what I would like to do to talk a little bit about, especially again for the founders here, let's talk about the next wave of disruption. You already mentioned vertical farming, and we'll start here with you and probably with all the rest of you as well. Which sector or technology would define the next wave? Like, if I want to build something, what should I build? Where exactly should I focus on? Like, that's interesting, because bold ideas also often mean you go into a space which is very relevant or very important at the moment, or underrepresented. Where would you focus on?
So I worked a lot on the food sector, so I would just say food as health, food for health, or food as a medicine is something that is really interesting to look at. There is a lot of, we're looking at a product right now, which is a company that is doing rice product or rice protein products, which are basically offering alternative to animal proteins. And I think, you know, you see in the US or you see in Europe now a lot of products like yogurt, drinks with proteins that are added. So I think there is a lot of possibilities here in Tamil Nadu.
You think fiber will come as well? Like and after protein, the fiber added products?
Sorry?
So in the US, you mentioned protein, like fiber added products,
Yeah,
so because
yeah.
we have a huge problem with fiber and like cancer due to the...
Yeah, no, so I think obviously we have to take that into account. I just don't want to make a long story because I know time's up as we saw it. But I think I would say this is something I would consider. I know this market, Tamil Nadu is very strong in ag tech and food tech and wants to push into that. So I would consider, rice and how you could build, new alternative proteins that could be added into products for food as medicine.
I think if you're building a company that is solving a big problem which requires VC funding, it's good to ride the wave because there was a client-server wave, then there was the cloud computing wave, then there were smartphones, then there was the mobile apps waves, enterprise software, SaaS, and right now we're at AI. So either build on the wave, the tailwind wave, which is disrupting through AI, or build on industries that won't get disrupted by AI, like for example, food and fashion. And entertainment, which is going to, I think entertainment is something that will clearly just boom. It's going to be like 100x with micro dramas and all coming out. So either AI or do things that are not going to be disrupted by AI. I think that's a small takeaway.
Also to finish off from your both, like which sector tech would be interesting?
See, I have, since I have various areas which probably I continue to think about where the solution comes from. One of the things which has to be looked at is kind of making the world equitable. Somebody who brings in solution like this tokenization of assets, the, what do I say, that transaction of exchange of resources across using this kind of new technologies so that globally we become equitable. The country which owns that assets should benefit from the assets, not somebody else comes and then picks up the assets, right? So that is something, and use this technology. What do I mean by equitable is make sure that the exchanges happens much quicker than what is being done today, so that it has its own impact in the globe. For example, if my money get transferred to US in just 5 minutes, like what we can do in the whole thing, it can be done for many other areas so that the money gets spread across everywhere and it becomes equitable. So this is something which I look at. I was actually looking forward for other gentlemen.
Yeah, tokenization, for any of you interested, look up please Work Lee and Edena, because he's done quite an amazing work here. Would be very interesting.
So I was missing, here's what he wanted to tell. This is something which I kept on thinking, but I think it is a little long term for us to look at.
Jesper, any last suggestion?
I mean, we are at least there are many things we're excited about, but to just wrap this up, I think longevity solutions, anything around that, how do we live a better life longer, anything about the sustainability that we've already covered. And then I think computing and everything around computing is something we have spent a lot of time over the last 5 years and continue to be very excited about.
Thank you everyone for this very insightful conversation. It was a pleasure talking to you, getting these insights. I can recommend all of you, go after smart capital, be more smarter capital, build bold ideas, and smart capital starts with smart conversations, and I think this was one of them. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.